Hi everyone, this is a revision video for culture and identity topic looking at consumption. What I'm going to do is to go through four PowerPoint slides, each of them with knowledge and understanding, application, analysis and evaluation. So at the end of it, you've got a potential essay plan. This isn't all you could do. There are other things that you can do, which is to keep it simple, keep it easy. I've selected the four that I think are the most easy ones to look at and to talk about. And then you can use these for your essays. So the first thing to look at would be the argument that consumption has, we've basically got a consumer society now. It's a culture of consumerism where in the past we would be buying things because we had to. So we'd buy clothes to keep ourselves warm, shoes to protect our feet, food to survive. We now buy things as a lifestyle choice. We are buying things to create our identity, to look a certain way. We are buying specific things. But look in your wardrobe. How many things do you have? You've got, 20 dresses, 5 pairs of Levi's, 20 pairs of trainers. You don't need them. It's a cultural lifestyle choice. A couple of potential A or two application things that you could talk about. Some of them are very similar. You can just add to them. So Lurie talks about how shopping's become a leisure pursuit. So very much like we would go to the cinema to be entertained, or we might go to a football match. Shopping's now actually a leisure pursuit where we enjoy it. We make a day of it. We go out, maybe get some food, go to a few shops, try some things on, even if we're not buying anything, but it's actually become a leisure pursuit. Lurie also talks about binge shopping and how it's like the idea of fast fashion. So a lot of shops like your H&M's, Boohoo, ASOS, Primark, particularly where we're making lots of clothes very cheap and turning them around and changing the fashion very, very quickly. Featherstone and Beaucock could also be used. Both have this argument that people are shopping to help form their identity. So we go out and we are buying things not because of necessity, but we're buying them because how will this make me look? How will this fit in with my identity? In terms of analysis and evaluation, this clearly shows how individuals are using consumption to form their identity. So we could bring in some ideas from postmodernism, perhaps, in terms of this shows that we've got free will, we've got choice, we're not kind of constrained by our traditional identity, but we can actually use consumerism as a way of expressing ourselves. Marxists, however, would say it's limited how much free will we have. What we buy is very much determined by what's available, and those trends around fast fashion and the consumer society that's being created is very much around the bourgeoisie, the media pushing an identity onto us. We must look this way. So a good example of this would be maybe young lads who go to football matches, very much about wearing black. CP Company, Stone Island, North Face. It's help that consumerism, those buying items, is helping them buy into that identity, into that culture. But people could argue that actually it's being pushed on them and they're being told they have to dress like that. Again, as I said before, by all means use your own analysis, your own evaluations. These are just ideas that you could use. Second thing that you could talk about is how material goods are used to kind of give you a performing self. So maybe it's an identity that isn't like you. You could link in from your theory and method stuff, anything around Goffman perhaps here. Dittmar talks about how we buy things to help create and cement our identity, what we own. So, the type of phone that we use, the car that we drive, where we live, the music we listen to becomes an extension of the self. It helps you project who you want to be onto the world, and it lets the world know who you are. So, for example, a lot of people, a lot of people really care about having an iPhone, and they'll queue up for hours to get the latest release of an iPhone. I've got, the emo identity there in the top right hand corner, looking a very specific way to tell the world of who they are. This links in quite a lot with the pink pound, which we cover in media, where people are deliberately um, buying goods that are targeted towards the LGBTQ community, and they're wearing that with great pride. Another example I put in here is the whole idea of Ramones t-shirts. You can buy these in Primark and stuff like that, and I would probably gather about 98% of the people who wear a Ramones t-shirt have never heard any of the Ramones songs, and they don't know who those people are on the front. But it's just a way of trying to tell the world, hey, I'm cool, I'm into this kind of music, or I'm a bit edgy, or whatever. In terms of analysis, it shows the importance of, again, of consumption and allowing us to show the world who we are. I definitely think you should link in maybe some Goffman here. If you haven't in your application, try to link it in with your analysis, because this is about the dramaturgical. We're acting, we're using these props of clothing, of items, of cars, of where we live and stuff like that to demonstrate the world who we are. We use these items to demonstrate who we are because we can't just do it in our normal selves. Could be argued that this is a very age specific thing, however. So the elderly have an identity, but they don't go around using material goods to prove their identity, do they? They're not walking around saying, oh, look at me, I have a walking stick that proves that I am old, or look at me, I wear these certain clothes. I think this is very much a younger generation's thing. So we could evaluate that material goods helping us understand the performance self is only limited in helping us understand. Third one would be that the media creates this consumption. So this point would definitely help us understand a little bit about how we form our identity. So we use the images that the media give us to form this. So influencers are an excellent example of this. They encourage consumption through their advertisement, but also their recommendations, their reviews of products, of items, of things like that. So in your application, definitely talk about like TikTok trends, talk about Pinterest as well, and talk about any of those influencers. Now, I'm a lot older than most of the people who are watching this video, and so you will know who those influencers are. Name them. Who are the people? What are the products? So really make sure that you're getting that across in your application if you can. But basically, what we're trying to say through Strinati is the idea that we use the media, we use it, that's a key thing, we use the media to help inform our identity. So this highlights the role of the media and how we can use things like the global village to form our identity through recommendations. Very much a postmodernist argument. Again, we're moving away from the fact that if you're born in a working class mining village in County Durham, that is your identity. No, you can be a emo, you can get into American rap music, you can, have your makeup a certain way. We are using the media in this postmodern world, this global village, to create our own identity. Marxists obviously would question the motives behind this. They would not necessarily say that the media are doing this to try to help people form their own identities. They would argue that this is just a way of making more money, and that the wealthiest companies, of which there isn't a massive amount, are more influential than the others. So what this means is that what we're getting is a very streamlined identity where a lot of people look the same, act the same, because these wealthiest companies that own a lot of brands can pay influencers more money to promote their products. It might not be the best product, but it doesn't matter because the influencers will use or will be brought in under the influence of that money. And the final thing that we would talk about was more of an evaluation paragraph. So when you're writing these evaluation paragraphs, make sure that you're writing it in that way, as in there are some who would criticize the idea that consumer culture is a positive thing helping form identity. So Bauman talks about how there's two different types of consumers in society, and they're based on class. The seduced, these are the middle class and the affluent people, and the repressed, these are the people who can't take part in consumerism because they don't have the financial money or means to do it, or they have their identity devalued in some way. So, for example, in our society, if you've got a Range Rover, you've got the latest iPhone, you've got expensive designer clothing, then that is seen as a desirable identity, a desirable culture to be within. But not everyone can afford those things. Just trying to get a Stone Island jacket to make yourself look like everyone else who's got a Stone Island jacket. It's going to set you back £1,000 for this jacket. Yeah. The latest iPhone is somewhere in the region of £1,200. Range Rovers, well in excess of 60, 70, 80,000 pound to get the latest one. Now, if you want to be able to do that, then you can only be the wealthiest or more affluent in society to be able to gain that. So this shows that it creates a conflict and that everyone can participate. This is really important with the young, because the young want to fit in, they want an identity, they want to form an identity, and they want to fall within the trends of society. But if you can't afford it, then you can't get it. And then this creates a conflict with an identity. I want to be part of this identity and this culture, but I physically can't. However, some would argue that it's not just down to wealth, there's other things. And actually, it's very assuming to say that middle class and affluent want to buy into this. And many people reject this. So, for example, people who do it for environmental reasons, who won't buy certain clothing, who won't buy, regardless of how wealthy they are, won't buy certain things because of the environmental or ethical reasons. So, some people won't buy iPhones, doesn't matter how rich they are, because of the um, reported, I'm not saying there is, ethical discrimination against the workers, etc., in these different places. Okay. Remember, if we're doing a 20 marker for culture and identity, you would need an introduction. So just outline very briefly what we mean by consumerism and some of the arguments that you would be putting forward, and then make sure that you put some sort of kind of a however in there. And then you would need to conclude. When we're concluding, it's about identifying what's the strongest argument. Overall, is consumerism important in creating culture, in creating identity? Hope this video has helped. If you've got any questions or anything like that, then stick them by all means in the comments. And look out for future videos, which I will be popping on soon. Take care. Bye.